So as the host, I think I can see you, but you can't see me, Chrissy, right? Like when we were in that countdown ticker thing, you couldn't see anything.
Yeah, you see me dancing.
Yeah, I was like jamming, but I'm like, I always feel like I as the host can see you, but you can't see me. So like I could be like dancing and not, or you could be dancing and not know that I'm watching you, kind of a thing. So it's the host privilege.
Good thing I'm secure with my dance moves.
Exactly. Yeah, you could have got some yoga going or something at that point. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Social Media Pie, where I bring on inspiring people to educate and inform you on different types of topics. And I've got one of my fellow LinkedIn rock stars with me here today. This is Chrissie Zavicar. Chrissie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me.
Good. Well, I'm delighted to have the chance to chat with you here today. And I want to just take a second for those of you who are watching, if you're watching this on, maybe you're watching on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or on YouTube, if you could do me a favor, give this video a like, first of all, because it helps more people to see the video. And then if you could also leave a comment, and just let us know where in the world you're watching from, or realistically where in the household you're watching from, because we're all working from home these days. But just drop us a little comment. We can't see who you are until you leave a comment. And then as we go throughout the broadcast today, I'll start to pull some of your comments up on screen so you can actually join us in the conversation. Shifting gears a little bit. So Chrissie, you and I, we met, actually, I think we've only met in person once. And the first time we met was actually about a year ago when I was putting together a fundraising event for the American Cancer Society. And it was called the LinkedIn-a-thon. And I pulled like experts from the area who had, some knowledge of LinkedIn. And you were one of the, when I reached out to people and I said, who should I invite? You were like one of the first people were like, you got to invite Chrissie. So we met a little bit in person. I think it was like last May. It was a little over a year ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, back when we could meet in person.
Right. And we'll get back there someday. But in the meantime, for those people who maybe don't know you, Chrissie, why don't you take a few minutes, tell us a little bit about who you are and what your business is all about, and then we'll get into this conversation here today.
Sure. So my career began in professional sports. I actually don't judge me for this. I worked for the Detroit Lions for about 10 years, which was really cool because it actually was the start of social media when I was there. So I had the opportunity to start the Lions social media platforms and really, break in with an NFL team, which is amazing.
Wow.
And yeah, it was really cool. It was so much fun. I love working with influencers and people who have fans and sought after audiences. It's just so much fun. So in 2014, I decided it was time to leave and I wanted to venture out on my own and have my own business. And I started out with marketing consulting, digital media, full scope. And as I got into that a little bit more, LinkedIn really changed and became this content generated platform. And content has always been my jam. I actually was a content creator with the Lions. And so for me, the combination of social engagement, social media, and content was a perfect fit for me. So I shifted my business to focus specifically on helping people on LinkedIn. And so I help individuals really amplify their own voices in a genuine and authentic way as a way to create engagement on the platform, which then in turn helps their businesses or whatever their goals happen to be on LinkedIn.
That's awesome. So you and I have some similarities in our background in that we both kind of came from corporate and then we both left corporate and kind of started our own business. And I even heard some parallels. Like when I first started, I was doing marketing, social media, and then LinkedIn was kind of a niche. And it was like in the beginning, it was fun because it was variety work. But then I'm like, what do I really love to do? And where do I see an opportunity? And, similar to you, I mean, I kind of like decided I'm going to just focus on this as a category. And the great thing about folks like you and I is we don't work for LinkedIn. We don't ever have that on the platform. So we help people really use the platform more effectively. So, and some people watching here today might go, why is she bringing Chrissie on? Like Chrissie's similar to her. And we're actually in similar geography too. You are in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Is that right?
Yeah, now I'm in Milan, but it's Ann Arbor area, which people will recognize probably more so.
Yeah. So if you're a Michigander, we're kind of like, I'm like in Macomb County, which is kind of like closer to the thumb, and Chrissie's just a little bit, probably like an hour or so drive away from me. But it's a pretty big metro area out here. There's a lot of businesses and a lot of organizations, and I really don't see it as competition. I like the word coopetition, which is a word I first heard from Terry Bean. I don't know if Terry's watching today, but Terry Bean is, and I think you met Terry probably at the LinkedIn-a-thon. I don't know, did you know of him before then, or did you meet him that day by chance?
Yeah, I had met him at a LinkedIn local event, actually.
Okay. So, and we all kind of, we travel in similar circles, and, you know, I've referred business out to Chrissie. I've sent things to Terry. Terry sent things to me. I mean, we all kind of like help each other out and make this world a better place. But I am really looking forward to this conversation. So when I asked Chrissie to come on the show, I said, what do you want to talk about? Pick any topic. And she picked this topic. So we're going to talk about how to develop your online persona. So let's jump into the conversation here, Chrissie. And there may be people watching that are very familiar with this concept. And there's probably others that are watching that are going, the online what? What is that? So why don't we start there, and then let's see what tips you have to offer us today.
Okay, so in terms of the online persona, it's really a matter of digging into your core strategy, but also it's a blueprint of what you're going to share online. I think one of the most difficult things that people encounter when they're trying to do LinkedIn specifically is, what am I supposed to say? I have no idea what I'm supposed to say. Am I supposed to just post about business? Is this just supposed to be a platform that is, you know, we're talking about the reports we just delivered, or the work we did, or am I selling? No, don't sell, you know, that kind of a thing. And what I have found works really well on LinkedIn specifically, and across other platforms, but really LinkedIn, because of the fact that when you post on LinkedIn, people will see it if they're interested in it. And that's the really cool thing about LinkedIn right now, is that it's not like you're posting great content, but an algorithm is going to block you and no one's going to see it unless you pay for it. With LinkedIn, if you post something that people like, I don't care if you have 500 followers or 500,000, people engage it and it'll get seen, which is really cool. And so when you're looking to post on LinkedIn, what you really want to do is develop a sense of who you're going to be on the platform. It should 100% be genuine to who you are and authentic to who you are, but you don't have to spill your guts on LinkedIn and be all of who you are on LinkedIn. You can pick and choose, okay, what am I going to do that is going to amplify the message and the aspect of myself that I want to give on this platform? And I say all the time, is that we want to make sure that we are either informing, inspiring, or entertaining. Those are the three areas that I tend to see people do really well on LinkedIn. And what's funny is, one of the things that I'll say to people, you know, sometimes I work with businesses and there's multiple people that are on LinkedIn trying to engage. I might give, and I think you and I are actually perfect examples of this. We're in the same space. Something I would post, there's no way you'd post it. No way. And maybe vice versa, because we're very different people. We have different ways of communicating, different things that we like to share about ourselves. Yet it works for both of us because it's authentic to who we are. And we're both effective in what we do. So I might give Joe at company A this post, and I think he would do really well with it. But Steve at this company, there's no way, because it doesn't fit his personality and who he is. So it's really important to make sure that what it is that you do fits yourself and it fits you. And when you do that, people can tell, even if it's the written word. It's amazing that people can actually tell what's genuinely you and what's not.
That's a really good point. And I think some people, like you were saying, they struggle with what is my voice on LinkedIn? Am I stuffy corporate Brenda? Am I fun, happy-go-lucky, but then people don't take me seriously? Like, how do I figure that out? And it's kind of like it's an evolutionary process, I think, in some ways, isn't it, Chrissie? I mean, I don't think most people just land on LinkedIn and go, okay, this is what I'm doing, and they're successful from day one, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, there's so many factors that go into it too, because you've got to look at the nature of what's happening with LinkedIn. I think in the last year, especially, the BS meter on LinkedIn has just gotten really sensitive. And things that you could do a year ago, people are like, get away from me. I don't want you doing that. So you have to take into account what's happening on LinkedIn itself, and then also what's happening in the world. For me, I got really vulnerable and started sharing a lot of really sensitive things when the pandemic hit. I share about my sobriety on LinkedIn. I'm passionate about Black Lives Matter movement. And that all just came about, and I've gone with it, and people have appreciated it. But it's not something that you're going to just, you know exactly what you're going to do, and that's never changing. So it does have to evolve, both with, you know, the platform, media, and what you're doing as an individual too.
Yeah, good point. And I think, you talked about COVID and being aware of what's happening in the world. I mean, there's people that I think when COVID hit, a lot of businesses, and you probably saw this too, a lot of businesses kind of, they went with their, okay, what do we do? Okay, in their PR or their firm said, you got to send out an email. Like everybody sent out the email, the templated. And then it was kind of like social media. It was kind of like, do we post? Do we not post? What should we do? And it was kind of like a little bit of a pause because everybody was kind of recalibrating, getting people working from home, making sure their customers were safe. How do we keep the business running? Oh, that's right. We got to keep going on social media, right? Yeah. And they needed to shift back into that. And there might be folks watching today that are thinking about, when you talk about this topic of developing your online persona, they might be thinking of themselves as an individual, how do I develop it? Or how do I develop a persona for my company? So is there a difference, or is the persona attached to a person, or is it to a company, or help us understand that a little bit?
I honestly, if there's a business that is a brand and we're actually going to be engaging as the brand, I look at the brand as its own personality. So I will ask people, what is the personality of your company? Is your company happy-go-lucky? Are they very serious? I had one company that was all about safety. There was no humor. We are not funny. We're not funny. We're very serious. And so you need to know what that is, because when you're engaging as a company or a business, you also want to make sure that there's a specific reason people want to engage it. So as much fun as it is to just get those marketing emails, there needs to be a reason, the same exact 3 reasons, right? Is your brand entertaining? Is it inspiring? Is it informing? Is it, are you a resource for certain information? Are you providing insight into something? Are you just a hilarious brand? Whatever it is, it needs to be the same reason. I think some people lose the fact that there has to be a reason that people want to engage you. As much fun as it is to just be like, oh, okay, well, I optimize your LinkedIn profile, and these are the steps. I don't really know that people get that excited about that sort of a thing. They're going to get more excited about, something that we can actually have a conversation about. So it is important to make sure that what you're posting is something people want to get social around about.
Yeah, have conversations about. And I'm curious too, because I'm self-employed, you're self-employed, and I know there's probably other people that are watching. And one of the questions I hear is people saying, well, how am I different? How am I different? Like my profile on LinkedIn, how is my profile different than my company page? Isn't that the same? I mean, what's your advice to them? And in that case, is our persona for ourselves the same as the persona for our company? What do you think about that?
What I think is funny about this, I've had people say to me, okay, so I have my own business, but do I have to do something? I'm like, no. If honestly, if there's no need, if you are your business, then there's no need. And people are going, oh, thank God. I didn't. So to me, you need to actually have a real reason to post as a brand to do that. For example, let's say, and I'm not necessarily doing this right, but let's say I do want to talk about LinkedIn tips. I haven't done it. I probably should. But if I really wanted to push out LinkedIn tips, and that's more of a sterile, functional thing that I want to share, that's going to be more businessy. So maybe that comes from the business page instead of come from your personal page or personal profile. But if you're one person or 2 people and it's not like you have an abundance of content that needs a place to go, you're going to get significantly more traction just posting from your personal profile than you are from the company page. So unless you have all of this content, you need a bucket for it, just do do your personal profile, because LinkedIn gives a lot more exposure to those.
Agree. It's like the individuals on LinkedIn, and I guess there's some similarities to Facebook. I mean, the individual accounts on Facebook get more visibility than Facebook business pages. Once upon a time, they're a little bit more equally weighted, but it's changed a lot. And I imagine for you, I mean, your persona has probably changed a bit from the time that you first launched your business. Did you say it was 2014 when you first launched?
I worked with a business partner who's actually my business partner again. So I'm working with Herman Moore and Team 84. So I'm actually the president of his marketing company as well. Awesome. But I worked with him for a year, and then in 2015 is when I started my own business. So it's been 5 years.
Yeah. So have you changed? Has your persona changed since 2015 to 2020, or are you kind of fairly the same? What would you say?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's changed since 2019. I have really found my voice, and in the sense of just sharing more of me. And people responded really well to it. So one person, I will give a shout out to Miss Maggie Patterson. So she's been a business mentor of mine for the last couple of years. She's in Ottawa, Canada. And I believe she's in Ottawa, but she's in Canada. And back in 2018, I was at a business retreat, and my business was doing fine, but I wasn't hyper focused on anything. And one of those things that is interesting in general, about us as human beings, sometimes we just don't see the most obvious things about ourselves, and it takes other people speaking into us to recognize certain things. And this was very true in terms of me and business, because to me, it wasn't obvious what I was supposed to be doing. And I remember I was in a room, they do in-person hot seat masterminding type activity at these retreats. And so it was my turn. And my question was, what direction should I be taking my business? And I will never forget this. I walk in, because they make you leave the room while they talk about you, and you come back in and they give you their answer. And Maggie said, okay, everybody raise your hand if you think Chrissie needs to do LinkedIn. And everybody in the room raised their hand.
Really? Yeah.
If you have no idea how to use LinkedIn, and everybody raised their hand. And to me, LinkedIn was such a natural fit, and it was so easy to me because it was content, it was social media, it was human behavior, which I'm so passionate about, that it didn't occur to me that I was that good at it. Because to me, and that's what happens a lot of the time when we're naturally good at something. We don't realize we're naturally good at it.
Yeah.
And so that was really where things shifted. And once I put everything into LinkedIn, my followers just started exponentially multiplying. And that was also when I decided, okay, let's start doing this LinkedIn local thing. Let's get local with this and really start engaging with people. And so the combination of those two things started a snowball effect for me. And one thing, I love that you keep track of my stats, and I'm terrible and have thank God for Brenda, because otherwise I wouldn't know how much I've grown in the last year.
Well, you know why I do that, though. The backstory behind that was like, I mean, I do it because I wanted to be better. I want to see who else, in the beginning, it was like, I was not publicizing it. I was just doing it on my own. It was like using public data. And I was trying to figure out, how do I get better? Well, let me follow people who are similar to me, and then who are like the Gary Vaynerchuks, the 5 million followers. And I just started tracking it over time. And it was kind of like a John Espirian inspired. He always is tracking data, and he would report on it. And I did it once, and people are like, wow, this is really interesting. And I've had a couple people since I started publishing it, they reached out to me and said, hey, I appreciate that you're doing it, but it's causing me to focus on the wrong things. Now I'm feeling like I'm competing with people, and I don't like the feeling of competition. And I'm like, that's not what it's about. It's really like, and sometimes people are like, oh, I'm in the top 10 this week, and last week I was in the bottom 25. I'm like, honestly, if you're on the list anywhere, you are awesome, because there's a vetting process I go through to bring people on. And very rarely do I take people off of the list unless they request it, or if they start to show, bad behavior on the platform, or just like they're not a giving type of a person. I'm like, I don't need to shine the spotlight on someone who doesn't get what this is all about. But you were one of those people for me. I mean, I heard your name. I started kind of watching you, tracking you, and the cool thing is reporting on the data. And I think you've actually been higher in the list than me for a little while now. I mean, I think we've been like in the same kind of percentage ranking and stuff, but I'm not like, oh my gosh, I'm not winning this week. Like, it's not that. It's more about the learning experience for me, and not as much about the competition. It's kind of just keeping an eye on things, but I learn things from watching you. And if you guys are not following Chrissie yet, you have to go and follow her on LinkedIn. I want to pull your profile URL up on screen. So if you're not already following her, make sure you look her up on LinkedIn, follow her, all that good stuff, because there's really great information. But she's not selling. And I want to get back to that point that you mentioned earlier, Chrissie, and you said, when you're talking about your personal, there's a lot of things you can talk about on LinkedIn, but selling is not one of them. I know the answer, but I want to hear, if you could share with our viewers here today, not post.
Say that again. You broke up a little bit.
I'm going to ask the question, why should people not be selling in a post on LinkedIn? You said earlier, don't be selling. So why should they not be selling? Can you hear me okay now? I want to make sure audio is okay here. All right, good.
Okay, so why should you not be selling in a post? And I honestly think this has changed a little bit over the course of the last year, especially, like I said, the BS meter on LinkedIn is just really hypersensitive right now. And this also, we're talking about posts. So I am an advocate for selling well in private messages. And we can talk about that after if you would like. In terms of selling in a post, people on LinkedIn are there to make conversation. And what's fascinating is that there's people fighting this. They don't want to, we're not talking about real things. We're talking about business and our faxes and all the things that are business related. People, the behavior on the platform is showing that people want to just talk to other people that have things in common with them about things that matter. And you can look on the platform and see the things that do really well are people that are talking about social issues. They're talking about, they're making people laugh. They're being really inspirational and telling stories. They're anecdotal. People just want something to engage with. They don't want your marketing message. And it's fascinating because it's fascinating that people don't understand this. Because people will post a video or they'll try to post a video and I'll say, if it looks like an ad, it won't do well. Just don't post anything. You can't doctor up a video on LinkedIn too much that looks like a promotional video because people will skim right by it like it's an ad. You literally have like a fraction of a second to capture someone's attention on LinkedIn. And so you need to do so with something that is going to spark them to want to stop, comment, pay attention. And selling your most recent item is just not going to do it. People, what do I have to say about that? I don't really have anything to say about that. Therefore, I'm going to roll right by it. And this is the concept that I've had to explain to people is that your visibility is the most important thing on LinkedIn. And it seems counterintuitive sometimes because, as I've always said, desperate's not a good look, but people get desperate. And so they want to put out there, I need money, so therefore please come, pay me money. But that doesn't work well. What works well is when you become visible through engagement, and that's how LinkedIn works. The more people engage you, the more you're going to come up on their feed. And as you know, Brenda, when you have a post that does super well, check out your profile views. You will see a spike. And your profile is supposed to be your sales page. That's where you're selling. So your whole point is to get out there, be seen, and then people will go to your profile and learn more about you.
Yeah. And the cool thing about that technique too is when you post, you're basically pushing information to people and you're kind of like putting it in their face and they can either choose to engage or scroll past it. But if they've seen something that is engaging them, whether it's informing, entertaining, or educating them, and it pulls them in, and they're reading and they're commenting, then they're like, who was it that posted this? Oh, Chrissie, who's she? They click to go to your profile. Now they're taking that action, and now they're taking the action to go to your profile page on LinkedIn. And now, like, that's I love how you said that. It's your sales page. This is where you're selling yourself, because you know what? At that point, the person has initiated that action to go to your page. So they're saying, I'm open and receptive to what she's going to say because I took the action to get there. So, I mean, LinkedIn definitely can be used for selling, but there's an etiquette and you talked about earlier, human behavior. We have to kind of think about how do we as human beings like to get information. We don't like it pushed down our throats, but if we encounter something that leads us to a link, we're open and receptive to that, right? We're kind of going that direction.
Yeah. What I suggest from people is the goal is it's not the sexiest, you've got the people that are out there. And it took me a while to get comfortable with this perspective, my own perspective on this, because it's not the sexiest. People are out there making guarantees and saying that they're going to get all these leads for you and all this stuff. And you'd have to tell somebody, look, this is how it works. And you have to get comfortable explaining that to them and having confidence in yourself that it is going to work. But the goal is on LinkedIn, you want people to self-select. You want somebody to go, oh, I really like Brenda. What's she about? Oh, this is what she does. You know what? She really fits me. And she fits me and I want to work with her. Or this is what happens. I'm sure you've dealt with this. Someone gets to know you and they follow you and they're your biggest fan. And then their colleague in another company says, I need somebody to help me with my LinkedIn. Do you know anybody? And they go, you know what? And she's amazing. That's what she does. You get referrals from the visibility. And we can talk about the lurker phenomenon, which basically that is too, if you think.
I kind of like to call them, rather than lurkers, I like to call them readers, because it sounds a little bit more appropriate. Because lurking kind of sounds like you're looking in my bathroom window or going through my trash. It's it's like a context change. Like readers are the people that don't actively participate maybe in the conversations on LinkedIn, but they are they're reading, they're watching, they're observing, and they're the same people like you. If you walk into a meeting or nowadays go into a Zoom room, they're like, hey, Chrissie, I saw that you were doing yoga over the weekend. That looks really great. And you're like, how do you know I'm doing yoga? You're like, are you in here with me? What's going on? But it's because they're following you on Instagram or some other platform where you were posting those yoga pictures, right?
Yeah. Yes, it is. What I love is that it works 90% of the time. It's hilarious. And what you really want to get out of it too is don't get too discouraged, because what tends to happen, and this is part of the phenomenon that happens. So you develop this fan club on LinkedIn. So you end up with these people that love you. They will do anything for you. When you post, they're there. They're commenting. They're loving you. They think you are the greatest thing. And you show up first on their news feed, and they want to talk to you. They're your fans. And what those fans do is they make your content more visible because they're engaging it. And so then their networks are seeing it as well. And what you don't realize is that your readers, I'm going to keep calling them lurkers, but I'll call them readers for ourselves.
Call them lurkers if you want.
I'm a lurker person. But no, they're watching and they're observing. I've had people say, I have been following you for months.
Yeah.
I have no idea who this person is.
And they reach out to you and they're like, I've been following you they meet you in person and they're actually like giddy to meet you. And I'm like, I'm sorry, who are you again? You feel like
I got recognized at Home Depot. I was wearing a mask. I'm like, I'm LinkedIn famous. What are you going to do? It was hilarious. And I was wearing a mask. I mean, this must be really great. But
was it a mask with like branding on it or something? Or they just recognized you? Wow.
This was early in the process of the pandemic. So it was crazy. I was like, oh, hi. That's great to meet you. Yeah.
That's great. But you are part of your online persona, part of your brand for yourself, Chrissie, is approachability. And that's something you've always been very friendly, with me, and with I see you interact with your fans, your followers, and you've always been very approachable. So that person probably felt like if they came up to you in person at Home Depot, that would be consistent in terms of your approach and your personality in that conversation, right?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It's one of the things that I've been doing probably in the last year is I ask people what they think, their perspective of it. What do you think about how I do this? Or what do you think about my personality here? Because to me, that is approachability is not one of the things I would have pegged about myself. So that's it's helpful for me to know. It is. Yeah. I think that people outside of ourselves can sometimes have a lot more insight into who we are, which hysterically enough leads into what we're talking about, because when I work with people, I will see things in them that they don't see in themselves that I think is of high value that they put on a platform like LinkedIn. I will see what I think is really valuable, engaging, and they don't see it that way. I do think a lot of it is the fact that what we're naturally good at doesn't register as something that other people aren't. It comes so naturally to us that we are a certain way or that we can do a certain thing that we don't realize how special it is. And then someone else will tell you, I had no idea how to hit post LinkedIn. Everything you're telling me is mind-blowing, especially when you do it over and over and over and over. You think this has got to be something everybody knows at this point, and they don't.
Yeah. Well, speaking of expertise, what I want to do is I want to actually shift gears a little bit, because this is your time, guys. If you have any questions for Christie, I want you to tap into her expertise. So you can see I've got the little ticker running below right now to remind you to comment below if you have any questions or if you'd like to add to the conversation. And I've had this running for just a minute or so here beforehand. So I think I saw a couple of comments coming in, and I want to pull a few of these questions up on screen, and then we're going to kind of shift gears and go into the audience interaction portion of this conversation. So Angela's asking, how do you get over being nervous that the information you post sounds cheesy? What's your advice there?
Oh my gosh, I don't know I'm really big on the cheesy thing.
We're like pulling out the crackers and dipping into the cheese, Angela. We're not worried about cheesiness, right?
No, I mean, honestly, if you, my perspective is if you're cheesy, own it. I mean, that's really my thing. If you are a cheesy person, be one. If you aren't, then, maybe have somebody look over the post, but seriously, just the thing for me is that I want you to be genuinely you. So if you are somebody who's that way, more than likely people love it about you. They think it's great. So just roll with it. So
own it, right?
Own it. Absolutely. Own you.
So here's another question. And I imagine, like, I'm a self-proclaimed introvert at heart. I will always be an introvert. All that means is I need to kind of, after I do something like this, I'm going to need to sit in a quiet room and not talk to anybody. It doesn't mean I'm shy or quiet.
Right.
It's just, that's how I recharge. So Jean's asking, and Chrissie, are you an introvert too, or do you consider yourself an extrovert?
Really? I'm a hardcore extrovert. I am all extrovert.
Yeah. So advice for Jean on coming out of her protective shell. Any suggestions for her?
You might have better insight into that. Honestly, I think that the big thing is finding out your purpose of why you're doing what you're doing first. So you know, why are you doing what you're doing? What's your goal for what you're doing? You know, maybe if your goal is to be in front of more people, maybe little comments on other people's posts before you do your own. One piece of advice that I give that might apply here is you want to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, but you don't want to try to replicate what someone else does that is completely not you.
Yeah.
So take a step a little bit forward, do something a little bit bigger that you maybe before, but make sure that it's just stepping away from who you already are. Don't say, wow, Chrissie's posting about social injustice and yoga and sobriety. I better start opening up my closet and telling all my secrets on LinkedIn. Right. No, that's not what you should do because it's not who you are. So step outside your comfort zone, but don't think that just because this person's doing something that's working for them, that's what you need to absolutely replicate for you, because that's not the case.
That's great advice. The only thing I would add on to this, it's going to be a short piece of advice, Jean, join Toastmasters. It's a public speaking group. It's going to help you to get comfortable talking to other people, making small talk, and gaining confidence in yourself. I'm going to shift us on now to the next question coming from Joey. Joey's asking, how do you tout yourself without sounding like you're bragging or boasting? What do you think?
Oh, good. That's a good question. What do you think? Tell me, Brenda, what do you think?
I would say, I'm not sure, Joey, if you work in sales or what you do. I mean, one thing I do is instead of shining the spotlight on me saying, yay, go me, I will find like someone has given me a LinkedIn recommendation saying, wow, Brenda is awesome and amazing. And I grab like a screen capture of that, Joey, and I post it on LinkedIn. And I'll say, thanks at Terry Bean for the nice comment, you know. And then I always like flip it right away. And I'm always like, LinkedIn recommendations are a great way of building visibility with your network. So I'm never going yay me at all. I'm always like saying, thank you, Terry Bean, for the recommendation. And then I'm kind of like, here's a tip on how to use it type of a thing. So you can, I think, Joey, you could probably demonstrate your expertise, which is probably what you're really getting at here, in a way that's making it of use to your network, like in an FAQ type of a post versus bragging about yourself. I don't know, yes, Chrissie, does that?
I would agree. I think that you want to help people. You want to help people instead of saying, I'm so good at this, and make it fit within the parameters of your personality. I will throw out there, oh, I'm amazing. Yeah, I'm awesome. But that's my personality. So it's natural to me to say or do something like that, and it will come across well because it is my personality. That's one of the most fascinating things to me about social, is that even if you're typing, people can tell if it's really your personality or not. But I would agree. Something that I would recommend to a client is talk about what you're good at. Talk about what you know, not this is what I did. Say this is where I was. You know, it's a fine line, but it can be. You want to be very strategic. It's sad. Sometimes you got to pull out your manipulative gear because you might show a picture of you being somewhere that shows how, you know, what your value is. You know, I was with this person or I was at this place, that isn't necessarily saying I'm awesome, but you can show that you're awesome.
Showing you, I want to pull up your profile. I think you still have it on your profile, right? So this is a photo that Chrissie has in her header, and we can't really see everything going on in the background, but we can see Chrissie is in the front of a room. She's behind, but has stepped away from is it called lectern? I always get it confused. I think lectern is what you stand at. podium is what you stand on. So I think the lectern, she's walked away from it. So she's got command and presence of the room. And we can start to see heads, people that are watching her, and I see her using gestures. So this is a way she's not bragging or boasting about herself, but she is marketing herself. She's using that header image to kind of say, this is what I do. And I have command of the audience and people are hanging on my every word, and I'm away from the lectern. I mean, that's a good way, right? Using your LinkedIn header in there.
100%. Also, I mean, I posted a picture yesterday. I was at our offices at Team 84, and we were shooting some video content for some new platforms that we're doing. You can, it's right there. Living the Good Life.
Living the Life one? Okay, let me pull it up here.
So this is showing a little bit of what I do, and it's a little different than maybe what other people will do, but it's just giving a look into what I do in my life without saying I'm awesome.
Well, you are awesome, but look how cool that is. You got Herman Moore in the picture there, and it's kind of like I love how it's showing a picture on the video camera in the left-hand side of the screen, and then you're in the middle of it, getting kind of like a close-up version of it. And it's kind of like we are seeing a glimpse into what your life and your business is all about, which is really interesting. And I'm sure this posted really well on here. I'll add a comment afterwards to keep that going. But you guys go to Chrissie's profile. She's always posting really great content on here. And, make sure that if you are open to doing so, follow her on LinkedIn. And while we start to kind of wrap the conversation up here today, Chrissie, are you open to accepting invitations from people, or do you only accept from certain types of people, or what is your philosophy there?
Oh, yeah, I'm open. I mean, if you look like a real person, I'm cool with it. I have noticed that sometimes I will shy away from, you start to get a pulse of the people that are more than likely going to send you a sales message 0.4 seconds after you accept. So I sometimes shy away from those that I can tell that they're probably going to try to sell me. I get fewer and fewer requests since I have my follow button leading. So my gap between connections and followers is pretty wide. And I think it's like there's a 15,000 person difference. Okay. So I do accept people though that look like they're people. Because you get those like computer generated people too. Those are weird.
Yeah, they look like, they're kind of like, it's like, is that even a real human being, or is it like a photo generated bot or something? Do you ever try to, I've tried to do this, Chrissie. I tried selling to the salespeople. So when I get either the initial pitch in the invitation, hey, we can help you generate leads on LinkedIn. And I'm like, hey, your approach on LinkedIn is kind of sucky. I can help you with a better approach on reaching out to generate leads on LinkedIn.
So I'm terrible. I'm one of those people that will just not respond and honestly, in my head, I'm going, I haven't responded to 6 of your messages. So clearly, you might want to stop. But I actually reached out to people and said, your strategy is not that great. You've sent me 6 automated messages in the last week. You might want to get a new person managing your social.
That's awesome. I'm always trying to think about, how do I respond to those messages in a way that is authentic with my online persona? Because I want to be polite, I want to be appropriate, I want to be professional, but it also really great, when I get those messages from salespeople or the ones that, Chrissie, you and we know they haven't even looked at our profile and they're reaching out to offer to help us with LinkedIn. Like that's what they're offering.
Yeah, those are the best. Those are the best. Yeah. Can I help you with LinkedIn, or can I help you with lead generation? Did you look at my headline?
Right.
Look at my headline.
Sure, can you look at my headline first, or can you read my profile first? Then we'll continue the conversation. Sure. Right.
Yeah. It's those people. Yeah. Those people are hilarious.
It's not even worth it. But as we start to kind of round the corner on the conversation here today, Chrissie, I want to give you the opportunity. Any final shout outs you'd like to give? Anything you're working on right now you'd like to tell us about, or any closing tips on your online persona you want to offer to folks?
Oh, that's a lot of things. Let's see. Online persona, I think we covered it. My perspective is to just have fun with it and just enjoy it and let it be an organic, moving thing. You don't have to get it right immediately. And don't forget also to respond or take a pulse of the feedback that you're getting. People will teach you what you should be posting because they're going to respond to certain things. And as somebody that I do other social platforms as well, each platform has its own personality and its own things that they like to engage in. And interestingly enough, there'll be pieces of you that your audience likes to engage with more so than other pieces. So I might post about, like, there are posts that I know that every time I post them, people are going to jump all over them. People like my humor.
Yeah.
They like my gift posts. They like, so I just know that there's certain things that people like about me. And then there's other things that I'm really passionate about, but they don't really respond very well to them. And you'll start to learn what that is. So don't be afraid to test and to see what happens. And don't be afraid if you don't get all of the response right away, because as we talked about, people are watching.
Yeah, there you go. Lurking or watching. I saw a couple other people, they call them creepers. And I saw in the comments. I mean, it's all the same thing. I think it's the sentiment is you're not participating by liking and commenting. You're participating with your eyes, right? You're just kind of like watching, but not really getting into the conversation. Well, this was awesome, Chrissie. I want to just thank you so much for making the time to join me online here today. And what's next for you after you're done here today? What's on your agenda? Are you homeschooling, teaching the kids today, or you got other appointments, or what's up?
My kids are not with me today, but they do online virtual school, which is super fun. That's a whole other thing. But no, what I've actually been working a lot with the Team 84 marketing, as well as with my LinkedIn clients. And with Team 84, we're doing some really cool stuff. We're getting ready to roll out some new products and new technologies. So I've been doing a lot of work there. And then I love working with my clients. So helping them get their content out and generate their own visibility with their profiles. So I'm going to be tackling a long to-do list after this.
That's awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure seeing you, and hopefully we'll see each other in person. I was planning on doing the LinkedIn-a-thon as an annual event, and then, everything what happened with COVID. I'm like, well, we're not going to do it this year. And maybe we'll see what happens next year. Maybe it converts to online or something in the future. But at any rate, I know I'll see you at another event. And you're still doing LinkedIn Local. Are you doing those right now, but virtually, or have you guys paused on the local stuff right now?
We are not doing LinkedIn Local. I think people are starting to do, I saw Office Evolution Ann Arbor, which is where I've had a number of events. They're doing social distance in-person events. And then I've also been invited to speak at some virtual events, which I know you have as well. So I have not seen the LinkedIn Local piece here do anything virtual at this point, but life's a little insane at the moment.
Well, we'll keep our eyes on you for the future. And are you a LinkedIn Local host, did you say? Is that what your role is with that group?
Yeah, we have been. When LinkedIn took over the LinkedIn Local process, anybody can be a host. So before it was LinkedIn's piece, actually we're registering to be a host, and so we're the exclusive host of a particular city. And then once LinkedIn took it over, they basically said anybody can be a host. So that's kind of how that is.
Yeah, good. Well, I'm sure it'll come back at some point. We all know life's going to resume to normal at some point in the future. It'll be nice to actually shake a hand and have a cup of coffee live instead of virtually in the future. So thank you so much, Chrissie, for joining today. And I want to thank all of you who are watching here today. If you haven't already liked this video, please give it a quick like before you leave. Add a comment if you haven't done so. And then after you leave the video, could you do me one more favor? Go back into the video and click to share. Share it with someone in your network. There may be somebody online right now who is struggling with developing their online brand, their voice, their persona. And there were so many great tips that Chrissie offered us here today. I'd love to see if you could share that along. And you can do that in a post that counts for your LinkedIn post for today. You can send it in a private message. You can email them the link to watch the video playback. But share it along, because you never know who that message is going to help. And I want to say thank you, everyone, so much for watching here today. And stay safe, stay healthy. And I think we've got 5 more days. Go out and vote if you haven't done so already. And have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks again, Chrissie. We'll see you soon, I'm sure, in person.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.